Hey everybody, I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar today, and we're here with Gilad Hekselman, and we're thrilled to have you. So how are
Yeah,
you?
I'm good, man. Just running around a little bit today, but good. Yeah, everything is cool. In Brooklyn, had some music in my day today. Had another interview and had a trip to IKEA. So just a musician slash daddy life.
That sounds good. So let's talk about your music a little bit. We'd like to focus on what you're doing today. Jazz guitar today. If people want to learn about you and your history and where you came from and all of that, they can go onto your website. They can look at a whole lot of interviews that have already been done. In the magazine, we like to talk about what's going on with you now. What are you doing? What gigs are you playing? Are you recording? Are you studying this, that, the other thing? Are you writing? Are you, hanging out at the beach? What's going on with you?
Yeah, this is
Um,
actually a backdrop. I'm on the beach right now. I have this cloth that looks like I have a lot of guitars, but I actually don't.
well, if you could see over to my left, you would see one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. There's seven guitars like within
Nice,
within reaching of me, probably similar to you.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
you came to my attention quite a while ago, actually, as a guy that is kind of the new guard. I mean, I know you're not that young, but you're kind of the new guard. You came to the U.S., I believe, in 2004. You came over here from Israel. You basically took New York by storm. You played with everybody. You played with
I played
Schofield
with some
and
good people along the years. It's true. Yeah.
Peter Bernstein, who we love, and John Schofield, who we love. Chris Potter. There's a whole long list of people who you played with. And when I listen to you play, I hear all kinds of things going on. I hear old school, but I hear new school. It used to be when people talked about fusion, they would talk about, you know, rock players playing, or more of a rock based tonality and feel and all of that, taking jazz to rock. And what I'm hearing from you, and I don't have better words, is that you're just really stretching the whole thing out. You're kind of your tone is primarily a, I won't say it's a traditional tone, but it's primarily a traditional feel. There's a lot of bebop lines. There's a lot of everything going on in there. And you're using, I think, a 2-inch thick guitar, stop tailpiece. You're
That
using
you know more than me about that.
you're using you're using pedals. I hear a delay. You're using a lot of
Yeah.
delay. It sounds like you're using some kind of overdrive, whether it's in the tube amp that you're using. It looks like a twin or a super, one of those, or a pro reverb. So you got that whole distorted guitar thing going on with delay and a lot of what I'm going to call really really modern lines. How did your style evolve? Where did it come from? Who are your influences? Where are you going with this thing? What are you trying to do? What are you going to be when you grow up,
What
Gilad?
are, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you what are
That's-
you what are you doing with your life, son?
Well, I'll let you know in a few years. But no, I just yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of us. I think all I've ever really done is kind of find musics that I really really love and that move me, and then I basically try to imitate those things. So starting from when I was a kid, like, I was really into Michael Jackson and I was into like the Beatles and all that sort of music. And then when I went into fusion or like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and that growing up, and going through the usual path that guitar players go through. And he said fusion like it's a dirty word. I don't mind the word fusion. I mean, it's okay. What is not fusion actually? Then the one thing that maybe like makes me sound a little different is that a lot of my strongest influences are not guitar players necessarily. So I come from a ton of Ahmad Jamal and Bill Evans and Keith Jarrett and Brad Meldau and Red Garland and Wynton Kelly and like all across the board piano players and then saxophone players and then a lot of singers. People sometimes ask me like, how did you arrive at your sound? They say you have your own sound or something, but it's always been like just trying to sound like people that I really love. You know, I try to find music that really moves me, and try to see how I can replicate it without like, it's not with the intention of sounding like it, but just finding out how this makes me feel so nice. You know, like how does this or that music make me feel good, and if I can find sort of a DNA there or like a formula there, I'll try to just imitate it. So that's kind of how what I sound like came together.
Your harmony is very pianistic. You know, it's much more piano like than guitar like. And some of the stretches that you do and some of the ways that you go about creating your voicings are not what the typical guitar player. They're not out of the Mickey Baker book. Let's put it that way, if you know what I
I don't
mean.
know that book specifically, which is probably a part of why. But
Uh,
I didn't use many books for that kind of study. But I definitely spent, probably more time that I at the end of my life would be happy about, but like many hours on like trying to figure out how harmony works as opposed to like shapes of harmony.
right.
So like how voices can move into one another, like voice leading, and how I can structure a chord as opposed to just copy something that somebody else structured for me, and find systems where I can work on the ability to improvise harmony as opposed to always follow shapes that are set. And I spent like really a lot of time on that, really slowly figured out how to voice lead on my favorite tunes or stuff like that, and not finding one way to voice lead, but finding a system of how to voice lead and working on it like that. That's probably what you're hearing. That, and probably the fact that like I constantly think about piano players when I play. Like I constantly think about things that I heard Bill Evans do, or that I heard Keith Jarrett do, or any of my many piano heroes.
Well, you pull it off really well. I mean,
Thanks, man.
yeah, you really pull it off well. I mean, I hear you doing some things that people, piano players will hit a, will hit a chord, and then they'll do things inside of that chord, inside of those
Mm-hmm.
positions, and
Right.
you don't hear guitar players. I mean, some guitar players will do a few things like that, but I'm seeing and hearing you. You'll play a form, and then you'll do some figures within that form with two fingers. Like you'll hold on to some kind of a dyad or whatever, and then you'll do some things, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
it's fresh. I mean,
Thanks.
yeah, it's really fresh. And then, the way that you go about your single note lines, if you will, very fresh. You got your own thing going on for sure. Is there horn players that you emulate, or is it
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I spent a lot of time transcribing Coltrane, and I've transcribed some other horn players, Dexter Gordon, Lee Morgan, and also a lot of singers. I like to study singers' phrasing. So like I'll learn a tune, and I'll learn the Frank Sinatra version, and I'll learn the Billie Holiday version, and kind of compare and try to imitate their way of starting a phrase, ending a phrase, how long is the vibrato, how deep it is, how all the little nuance that makes their phrasing unique. And that's a whole encyclopedia of knowledge right there.
people like Sinatra is a great example, especially young Sinatra. His phrasing was just pretty incredible. He tells a story with every melody that he sings. You're absolutely sure that he's telling you a story about that melody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Same with many of the greats. Same with Ray Charles.
exactly, I mean,
Same with Betty Carter.
so I've been listening to your music for the past couple of days. I've been putting it on YouTube, on TV, and just kind of watching you go through your different things that you're doing. And I'm constantly being brought into your music by a little phrase that you did here and there. And
Yeah.
it's very clever. And in your own compositions, I noticed that you really have a lot of fun with time. You do a lot of interesting things with time. Where did all of that come from?
So yeah, it kind of relates to what you were saying before. Like I have this duality in my musical personality, where like my favorite music to listen to is mostly just like vocal music, like
Right.
songs. I love songs, and I really love a great singer. And on the other hand, I have a great passion for rhythm, and I always have, like since I was a kid. Like I would just be obsessively thinking about rhythms and trying to play them and stuff. This complexity versus simplicity is always something that I try to balance in my music. I try to satisfy both needs that I have. Like I want to, because I know that it's a big part of what excites me about music is rhythm. But I know that, like, let's say the Beatles. I love the Beatles, especially their later work. Rhythm is not like a massive part of that music. So you'll find an odd meter here or there, but like, it's not like polyrhythms and stuff like that. It's not a massive part of it. It's there a little bit, but not a ton. But still, or let's say Joao Gilberto. There's a ton of rhythm, but there's not like the rhythm kind of the complex rhythms that I'm dealing with. It's more, the groove, of course, is deep, and there's rhythm there, of course. But I always try to kind of find that place of warmth, like the thing that makes me feel like good at home if I put on music.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, the thing that since I was a kid, I've been excited about, like all this crazy this over that, and kind of odd groupings and all that kind of stuff has always been exciting for me. So I kind of always try to work a balance between those two things, like complexity and rhythm, and then also a song quality to things.
Well, it's really obvious. Your music. I mean, you write most of the stuff that you record, if not all the stuff that you record. You're in a group of younger guys that are not doing the standards, if you will. There's no.
I've done it. I have records out with standards on them. I think I'm just about to release my 10th or maybe my 11th. I don't know for sure, but some of them are off of Spotify, or like if I don't know where you get your music, but my first record is sadly off of all streaming. I won't go into why, but it's not up to me, so
Right.
it's not on there. And then my second record, and both those records, my first and second, have like half standards and half originals. And my second one, I think, is on only Apple Music, but not on Spotify. So if that's where you're.
So if someone was to ask you, let's say a musician, not a lay person, but is ask you, and they haven't heard you play, they don't know much about you, and they say, what is your style? What do you, what would you call your style? What would you tell them?
At least my goal is to create music that satisfies both the need for a strong melody and a song, and on the other hand, the ability to enjoy music that is not too obvious. So like have that duality.
Well, your music is definitely not obvious. A lot of the tunes that you write, your harmony is very advanced, and it's a delight to the ear. It really is.
Thanks, man.
Because you do a great job of combining your melodies and your harmony.
When I go out and listen to music, or when I put a record on, like if somebody is like really advanced and complex, that could excite me for like a tune, two songs, three songs. Right. But then I personally get pretty bored. Like, and when I put on like a Joao Gilberto record, I could listen to that all day. That is a good indication of what I need to do with my own music, because if it excites me, it might excite some other people.
Well, we want to hear songs. I mean, we want to hear melodies. I know that's what I want to hear.
I do. Not all people, and actually everybody have a different brain structure. Some people they get actually really, really excited when things are extremely complex and crazy, and that's fine. There's so much so many people in the world, and like not everybody's gonna like my music, and not everybody's gonna like their music.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, the problem for me with that is that there's only a handful of people that do that well. And to me, I mean, this is me talking, not you.
In everything.
Yeah, and those guys, they can go as complex as they want to, and I'm going to sit and listen to them because they're really interesting in what they're doing. And then
And
there's
there's
people.
the soulful. When people are
Exactly.
soulful, that's the key. So like some people I have no clue what they're doing, but just the fact that they have beautiful tone and a soulful approach, that's all I need. You know, I don't care if I don't understand what they're playing.
It reaches out and touches you. Can you pick up a guitar? No, look at
Yes.
that. That's gorgeous. I was listening
Thanks.
to you play that. That's your main axe now, right? Your main guitar.
Ah, yeah, been for a few like
Yeah.
5 years,
So tell me
something
what
like
that is. What is that?
It's a mofa. Nico Mofa is a great luthier that lives in Pescara, Italy,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he makes incredible
Sounds great.
guitars.
What are the pickups
Yeah,
that are in it?
I think he makes them. It's his own pickups. You know, like
Sounds great. So
yeah.
that's a nice little piece right there.
Oh man, I love this guitar.
Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, what size strings are those?
They're Tomastic 13s,
Thirteens.
like
Yeah,
round ones,
yeah. You
which to
can.
me feel more like 12s in any other brand.
Tomasics do have a little more give than the other brands do.
Yeah, they feel softer.
Yeah. And then, what amplifier are you using back there? Is that the Fender?
It's well, I'm using the Fender for the speakers, but I'm using a uh, pure tone amps. It's a guy in Greece who makes them. This mad scientist genius guy who like somehow made this amp that weighs I can't remember, but like something like 6 or 7 pounds, and it's all like pure tubes,
Just beautiful.
super loud, and it's like the best thing ever. Like I can take it to any place that has a speaker and just plug it in, and
Just it
it sounds like.
sounds great. So, are you? Let's talk a little bit about just go back about music for a minute.
Yeah.
When you're improvising over your harmonies and changes, are you thinking scales or are you just playing? What is your? How do you
No, I'm just playing. I'm
just
just
playing?
trying to.
You just hear it?
Yeah. I don't. I try to not think too much when I play. And if I have to think, it's just because I'm trying to find solutions if something doesn't work out or something is too
Right.
difficult for me to compute. But yeah, especially when it's in my own music, it's just no. It's I just try to think of good melodies if I'm playing a line. You know, just
It sounds great. So let's talk about gigs. I noticed that you're going to be at the Village Vanguard.
I'm gonna be there for a week, which they always do weeks residence. So I do. I'm gonna be there March 29th until April 3rd. So that's like 6 nights.
And then in August, you're going to be the Alternative Guitar Summit.
Right. Exactly.
That'll be very cool. You're going to be with Bill Frisell and John Schofield, Kurt
Yeah.
Rosenwinkel, Mike Stern, Lenny Stern. I mean, it's too bad you can't find some good guys to play with.
I know. Well, yeah, I know. Which tried some other people, but you know they were too busy already. So
what else is on the horizon for you? You got a new project coming up? Any new records?
I got a new record coming out in well, May is the release date, and then there's gonna be some singles leading up to that. So the first single is as early as March 4th, I believe. Yeah, this record called Farstar that I worked on during the pandemic and put together, and kind of like a kind of different stylistically, not entirely different, but like you know different than what I've done so far. More like a studio record, you know, like a produced like different parts, like adding different parts and stuff, and um, have some nice guests on there, like Shai Maestro, the piano player, and Eric Harland, the drummer. So that's gonna be coming out in May. And besides that, I'm still working with the Trio Grande, this band. Well, it originally was with Will Vincent and Antonio Sanchez, but recently, there was a change, and now I think it's gonna be Nate Wood on drums instead.
Instead of Antonio.
So yeah, so we're gonna be out in Europe in November, and before that we're gonna be in Australia with Eric Harlan actually instead of Antonio. So summer I'll be in Italy a little bit, like teaching in Siena jazz. Every month has some goodies in it. August I'll be in Europe, around France and Spain.
I'm so happy for you. I really am. I'm very happy for you because you're playing music from your heart. I can feel it, when I see you, and you're not really playing it because it's commercially driven. You're not saying, oh, I got to record. I mean, I can feel like this is stuff that's really coming from you, and yet it's so artistically satisfying.
What's the point otherwise? No.
Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of people that put music out that's you just know that they did it because they think they're going to sell a lot of records. And
yeah, well, that's all right. That's all right too.
No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm happy when I see an artist be an artist and also be successful and be appreciated and get a lot of concert dates. And is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't mentioned? Is there anything?
Nothing really else to plug.
Nothing to plug.
I plugged the Vanguard already, and I plugged the record already. So those are the two, professionally speaking, those are the two most exciting things happening in my life. Yeah.
Well, listen, I guess we'll call it a day for now. And sure. Congratulations on the baby. Congratulations on your success. I'm glad that COVID seems to be winding down and people are getting back out there and playing and enjoying music. And
yeah, really we just came back from this European tour, man. That they're over it over there, and
they're out.
They're out. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They don't care. They just some of those countries was kind of shocking. I was like, well, this is
where did you go? Where were you?
Like Denmark and Sweden were crazy. Like it took me a second to kind of get used to it because I'm trying to be careful also because my wife is pregnant, so
sure
I try to be extra careful here. And then we were out there in just like packed venues with like no masks.
Oh man,
it was kind of a shock, but it felt good, and people are celebrating. That felt really good. Like we did this one gig in Sweden that was actually kind of replaced another gig that got canceled, and we just kind of last minute hooked that gig up, and just like a sold out room full of young people with no masks and just like ready to hear some music, ready to go nuts. Like your solo ends and it's like, like the whole crowd goes like man, they're here to party. Okay, so
that's great.
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed you got a flat top guitar in the background there.
So that's a Collings.
All right.
And it's one of my biggest loves at the moment for the past like few months actually since I got it. It's kind of like I don't know what they call it actually. They have a name for it. But
is it like the Julian Lage model?
I don't think so. I think it's like
double
like
O,
similar, like OM. But the thing about it is that it has a scale that's like a Gibson actually. So it's a shorter scale. And that thing just sounds so good, plays so good. Like I love that thing. It really kind of changed my life having that.
I love their guitars. I've got an I-35. My Collings, it just does what it's supposed to do, and that's so unusual. I don't know that it sounds as good as that thing you've got in your hands, but I don't have 13s on it either, and that does make a difference.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like how you play it too. So.
Well, I don't play it like you do. I promise you that.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Trust me.
Well, listen, thank you very, very much. I'm Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today. We're here with Gilad Hekselman. And you know what? Folks, go out, buy his records and stream his music and like his stuff on Facebook and YouTube and get to know this guy.
On
If
to the
you don't
Village
know,
Vanguard.
come to the Village Vanguard. If you don't know this guy, he's a true genius. And sorry about that. I don't mean to blow smoke up your skirt, but you
It's
really
okay.
are.
I appreciate it. It's very kind of you.
He's a true genius. And if you love jazz guitar and you want to see what the future of it is, you really check out Gilad, because he's definitely one of the major voices. So listen,
Thanks,
man,
brother.
thank you so much. Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today. Gilad Hekselman. Take care, buddy.
See you later. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
man.